Hi, everybody. Nice seeing you again. I'm coming to you from Scattered Pines Homestead here in Ridgefield, Washington, and we're developing some more classroom materials for you to listen to and to add to your handouts that are in Canvas. Today, we're going to talk about coaches and their leadership skills, and then we're going to talk about the four profiles of coaches as to how they lead and the behaviors that they exhibit and those kinds of things. So, we'll start our conversation today with the leadership skills. When we look at coaches, we look at them to lead us. We look at them to teach us. We look at them to inspire us. All those kinds of skills really come under the idea that we trust and believe in them. I've interviewed lots and lots of athletes over the years, and when I've worked with individual athletes, one of the things that I've found is the athlete today needs to trust their coach. And it's kind of unusual how athletes say they trust their coach. There's lots of different reasons for that. A lot of it is tied up to their own personality. Some of it's tied up to their previous experiences with other coaches. But trust is a big part of being able to follow through and to be fully committed to the process of team building opportunity because it's so personal with athletes. And so trust is a big part of it. And then belief, one in that they know what they're talking about. In other words, they have the technical knowledge of their sport or the skill that they're trying to teach, but they also have knowledge in how to handle people, how to treat people, how to react with people, how to interact with people. And so trust and belief kind of go hand in hand, and the good coaches are able to develop that, and the not so effective coaches are not. And what you'll find is what one coach is, a certain group of athletes will be attracted to that and they fit that system and that personality. And yet, another group of athletes that are just as good, equally talented, whatever, they would not fit well with that coach because they have issues or they just have disconnect with their personalities. And so, we're going to try to fill in the gap here, try to give you some experiences and some understandings of the kinds of things you look for in coaches so that you can know what to expect from them, and then you'd be able to figure out what is the best type of coach for you. So we look at coaches, and I said that their ability to influence. And influence doesn't mean control, it means influence. It means effectively communicate with another person in a manner that what it is that you're saying and communicating to them becomes valuable to them, and they, by their own accord, are able to follow through and fulfill those goals. Not drinking too much caffeine, getting enough sleep, following through with the training rigors of the workouts. Those kinds of things that you do on your own with nobody else around, that's influence. It's also decision, but it is influence. Second one is the ability to instruct. Are they clear in their instruction? Are they good teachers? Can they communicate in a simple language that shows you what to do, how to do it, when to do it, all those kinds of things? There are some coaches that are extremely knowledgeable, but not very good at communication. There's other coaches that are not nearly as knowledgeable, but they have excellent communication skills. So the ability to instruct. And then the last one is the ability to inspire. And it's not uncommon to have one coach on a staff that, for whatever reason, inspires others to greatness. They inspire because they're pleasant, they inspire because they care, they inspire because they lead by example. There's lots of things that happen, and there's lots of ways to inspire individuals to do really well. An example of that would be years ago, there was an old coach who retired from Eastern Washington University, and he went over and he was coaching at Gonzaga. He was a part-time guy. He'd already retired from Eastern Washington, but he wanted to stay in the game, and so he went over to Gonzaga University, and he was the part-time guy. And he was an inspiration because he was an old guy, but he showed up early and he stayed late and he paid a lot of attention to the guys. And when you talk to those guys at the time when he was there, they said he was an inspiration because he was so much older in his career and he came at that with a passion and a dedication to the team that it inspired them to do well. And it didn't reflect poorly on anybody else. It just, his part of his role in that staff was to inspire, and he did a great job at that. So when we look at coaching, we realize that coaching is really a combination of leadership and management. Leadership is the vision. Can you see what it is that you want to have done? Management is the tasks that need to be done. And what you'll find is you'll find a lot of coaches are very long on the leadership, but maybe not so long or not so strong on the management. They can see what they'd like to have happen, but they're not sure of how to get all the pieces put together. Conversely, there's coaches that understand all the tasks, but they sort of can't define for the individuals they're leading or the group that they're working with what is the vision. So a great coach will have leadership skills and management skills, and they're hard to find. And normally you can develop, if you're weak in one area or another, a coach can develop that, but to do that they have to get mentoring from other coaches. So we look at this, and basically what we understand is that coaches lead people and they manage tasks. That's what they do. They lead people and they manage tasks. It doesn't matter when they lead people, that means they recruit them. That means they organize their practice schedules. It means they communicate with them. It means they care about them, blah, blah, blah. All those kinds of things is leading people. Managing tasks is saying you have practice at 5:30 in the morning. You got to make sure that you're up. You got to make sure you're on time. And the practice schedule is organized and it pops from one thing to another, et cetera, et cetera. The bus is here on time. Everybody gets on the bus, all those kinds of things. Leadership, managing people, leading people, and managing tasks. Another thing that's a factor in coaches is their personality. Every person has a dominant traits within your personality. Every person does. It's given to you by your hardwiring that you got from your biological parents, but it's also given to you by the soft wiring, the experiences and the life opportunities that have been given to you. Some student athletes are very tough verbally. In other words, you can be very difficult on them verbally, and it, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to bother them. Most of the time when you interview that athlete, they have had previous experience with someone who is very verbal and very aggressive, and they've learned to turn that off or work around it. Others, if you got really verbal with them and very difficult with them, they would not handle it very well. And when you ask them, it's because they didn't have an opportunity to have that as a learning experience. Their coaching beforehand that they were under was much different. So a personality of a person is going to come through. And a great way to remember it, I always like to give you little phrases to remember these kinds of things. The phrase I want you to understand is people types and tiger stripes. And the idea is that a tiger, once they're born, they cannot change their stripes. Whatever their stripes are, that's what they are. They're not going to change. They're not going to change color. They're not going to change pattern. That is what it is. That's the hardwiring. And then people types is the same thing. Whoever they are, if they're an energetic, aggressive kind of personality, they're going to be that unless they had a traumatic experience in their lifetime, which changes that. And I'll finish this up with an example from my own life. I had an uncle that lived through the Second World War. He was a prisoner of war with the Japanese for 22 months. He came home weighing 72 pounds. My Uncle Phil was the most calm, chilled out guy I'd ever been around. And I asked my mom, why is Uncle Phil always so chill? We'd be running around the house with my cousins and tearing everything up, and he would just never get upset. And she related to me a story where when he went off to war, he was tough, he was vibrant, he was really, really aggressive. He was a great Marine, and then he spent 22 months in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. It changed his personality forever. The fact that he survived, the fact that he was tough enough to keep thinking ahead, the fact that he made that and lived to a longer age, was all a part of his internal DNA, but his external showing of who he was had changed dramatically because of his life experiences. Other than that, people types and tiger stripes is a great way to remember coaches are going to be who they are. And expecting them, going with a coach, signing with a coach that's really aggressive and really a fireball, thinking he's going to be calm or she's going to be calm, that's probably just not going to happen. Same thing with an athlete. Coaches sometimes will take an athlete and they're a certain personality, and then they try to change them. And that's where the rub occurs because the personalities don't understand each other. Sometimes the best opposite personalities work the best. But that gives us an idea of coaching and the leadership skills that are going into it. So the next video we're going to talk about one of the 4 frames, and we're going to talk about 4 frames so that you have some understanding of when you're working with a coach, you'll be able to see the telltale signs and know which one of those signs tells you what their dominant traits are so you can know how to work with them. We'll see you in the next video.